Lesson 6, Archive and Retrieve. With Archive, you're going to create a copy for storage. You're storing files for a specific period of time. There's no versioning. They're not used to restore corrupt files. They are used for safekeeping. You're going to archive as if you would physical files and put them in a box and put them in a storeroom. This is the electronic version. You set your retention period with your policy in your management class. By default, the retention is 365 days. You can change that to whatever you need for your business requirements. When you need to get a copy of this back, you use the retrieve option. And again, we're dealing with copies, not the original files. To access your archive page, click the Archive section in your Backup Archive GUI. You can archive multiple files or directories. You're going to group them together and provide a meaningful description of what's in your archive. You don't have to provide a description. If you don't, TSM is going to provide one for you, basically a date. Now, when you do archive your files, you have an option. You can delete the original file. If you're trying to save space, you could do this. You could make the copy and delete the original. Your copy is then safe in archiving, and you could retrieve it at any time. The description can be up to 255 characters. Be sure you enclose your description in quotation marks. Having a description is going to make it easier to find files that you're going to retrieve. If you don't enter a description, TSM is going to give it a date. Archive packages is a way of creating a set of files or directories that are archived with a common description. For example, you might have an entire department that needs to archive their files. You could use archive packages this way. This way, when you want to archive or retrieve, you can archive the entire package, or you can retrieve individual files in the package. When you use the GUI, you're going to see a display of all the files. This is the Archive Options panel in the Backup Archive GUI. This is where you can override your archive options. Notice here you can delete the files after your archive. You can also override anything you have in the include-exclude list. After you've archived your files, you can retrieve them. Either an archive package, you can retrieve the entire package, or you can open up your archives and find specific files to retrieve. Again, this is copies. You're retrieving the copies of the file. Now, if you did delete your files after archiving, you would use retrieve to return those files. To use the GUI, it's a lot like the restore. You'll notice the panel has our navigation tree, and here's our archive date, because in this case we didn't use a description. So this is what it looks like. Here's our date. Then you can open that archive package and drill down. This is the critical directory, and we've selected the one file. When you're retrieving, you might have what's called a collision option. This is where the file already exists and you're retrieving it. In the What Objects to Retrieve menu, you can select All Files and Directories, Files Only, or Directories Only. And when the file already exists, you can ask the user before replacing, do not replace or replace, however you select it here.